Our greatest hope has become our gravest danger. The hope of every human being is that children will rise to better circumstances than their ancestors. Education is the likeliest path to this generational liberation from poverty and obscurity. After winning World War II, and as they led the fight in the Cold War, the veterans of 1,000 hells in Europe and the Pacific hoped they had achieved the American dream. Most were able to afford a home in the suburbs and send their kids to college. After their depression-blighted youth, their National Socialist poisoned young adulthood, and their communist-tainted middle years, their many sacrifices would be justified. Their children would become America's newest and best-educated elite. What they got was Berkeley's free speech movement, Students for a Democratic Society, Yippies, Hippies, Woodstock, and the Weather Underground. Every anti-American poison that had thrived in the post-modernist, deconstructivist Frankfurt school of thought influenced academia hatched out and destroyed the promise of the baby boom generation. The spoiled brat narcissists, who were the leading lights of that undermined generation, then proceeded to undermine the mainstream Christian churches, the media, the scientific establishment, big business, entertainment, government bureaucracies, the military leadership, prisons, police forces, social welfare programs, civil rights groups, colleges and universities, and K-12 education. Not one institution of civilization, not even the customary relationship between the two sexes and the strictures of extended and nuclear families was spared their ideological purgation. We are all now beginning to experience what they hope will be the final phase of their great social experiment, with collaboration from the types of Swiss bankers who were business partners with Nazi Germany, and in conjunction with China's Communist Party, our own boomer elite are working overtime to destroy the very Western civilization and American dream that so fulsomely empowered them. As colleges then were the incubators of these trust fund rebels, colleges now are key in the production of cohorts of what George Orwell described as double plus good duck speakers. In his novel 1984, their Communist Party hoped to transform sentient human beings into bodies who echoed every mutually contradictory assertion of Ingsoc and Big Brother. Far from just obediently mouthing their party line, these products of Newspeak would shout their dogma with a frothing, fervent hysteria, with an emotional intensity that could only result in the immediate murder of any thought criminal with their own bare hands. Just how many of their woke articles of faith are now presented as being beyond question today? From man-made climate change to the dissolution of all social norms to satisfy the revenge fantasies of LGBTQ plus activists, the university-made red guards of today's cultural revolution demand nothing less than our unrestrained enthusiasm for their narrative of the moment. Dissent, even free speech, are worthless to them, tools of enemies who would stand in the way of progress purely for hate's sake. Until now, America has never produced the kind of fanatics who would willingly pull the trigger as members of Einsatzkommando death squads or open the spigots for the Zyklon B gas to pass into the gas chambers at Treblinka, not at least in sufficient numbers to man an instrumentality of mass murder. Until this current generation of young people, Americans would have been incapable of sitting by and watching a Reichskristallnacht or a Russian Cossack pogrom, let alone participating in one. However, the boomer groomers' works are reaching fruition. Their well-laid eggs are hatching. Today's colleges and universities, almost all, operate under the strictures of diversity, equity, and inclusion directives. They almost all restrict expression to conform with their leftist orthodoxy of the moment. They actively persecute any free thought and any unauthorized opinion, every act of individuality. The most flexible, pragmatic, or compliant students entrusted to their care quickly learn that easy success and popularity only come to those who enthusiastically participate in their orgy of conformity. Anyone who dares to let slip, or worse, bravely proclaim anything deemed to be apostasy or heresy from their orthodoxy will be punished. Gangs of enforcers are permitted to harass lone, free-thinking students, professors demerit their grades and forbid them from expressing variant views. Campus life and course curricula have long since been purged of alternative voices. Diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are as ironically named as Robespierre's Committee for Public Safety, as France's Great Terror was perpetrated in the name of public safety. Today's woke indoctrination happens in the name of tolerance. All of this operates under the umbrella of the college administration's active support. Only the most stubborn crusaders among the student body dare to actively resist this brainwashing. Most learn to abide in silence the outrages committed in their midst. If they keep silent, they hope, they will not themselves become targets. Meanwhile, the zealots are emboldened. They become habituated to bullying anyone and everyone who catches their notice. They have no shame, no sense of proportion, no personal morality. Instead, they cooperate in making themselves into the agents of change, which will destroy the existent world. They will then have the honor to be the ones to construct a utopia of utter conformity. For the last 20 years, these disastrous policies have transformed most K-12 schools throughout the United States, bolstered by the support of nearly every other institution in our society. The groundwork is being laid for America's purest true believers to be unleashed on the rest of us. Study China's Cultural Revolution to learn what these zealots have in store for the rest of us. Only when voters reject supporting any educational institution that practices speech codes, implements diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, and permits a vocal minority of komsomols embedded in their students and staff to persecute everyone else, only then might we turn the tide in academia. Only when parents and community members break the hold that educational professionals, people who are themselves indoctrinated in woke teacher training schools, will K-12 education be saved. Only when the entire system of progressive education has been itself purged and replaced will our kids be safe to learn, to dream, and to think for themselves.